Handsome her, gets woke, goes broke. Let's have a look. Good morning, everyone, and happy Easter. I thought today we'd have a look at a nice get woke, go broke story. Here is my stein of coffee, so I'm ready to go into this. Now, if you haven't heard of Handsome Her Cafe, they got in the media spotlight in 2017 because they were introducing a surcharge on men. Essentially, you had to pay 18% more. And this is an article from back then, and we'll just have a look at a few things here. I mean, it's all summed up really in this whiteboard. They believe in the gender pay gap, which is an earnings gap that's been proven that we all know about. They discriminate in favor of women because they're priority seating, and they say respect goes both ways. Now, this chalkboard, it reminds me of a scene from BioShock. Have you got here? You know, if you've played BioShock, give it a thumbs up. This is from the sequel, and you can have a look here. The sequel. This is from the third one in the title. You know, where you go into the daycare and you discover these Ayn Randian teachings that are passed on to the children. Let's have a look. You know, communism is a sham, outdated, is a mistake, no good, delusional, hypocrite. You know, a lie to people. I mean, this all seems perfectly good, a stupid idea. Property theft. Well, yeah. And empathy for weak people is for the unfit. Yeah, it's pretty harsh. So, I mean, you're not going to learn about Ayn Rand's philosophy from playing BioShock, but I just thought it was funny seeing how they've chose a similar type of thing to this dystopian game world, which I guarantee you they would never have played. None of the people going to that coffee shop know anything about the game world or what they're representing. Just the similarities there got to me. So let's look at a few things here. So Handsome Her is a vegan cafe, of course it is, in Brunswick Street, charging men 18% more in a bid to address the gender pay gap. The cafe, which clearly advertises its rules on a chalkboard, of course, explained men will be charged a premium and the gap donated to women's services. However, co-owner Alex O'Brien told 7 News the surcharge, which is in place 1 week out of every month, wasn't compulsory. She also said none have so far refused to pay it. Well, of course not. And in a Facebook post overnight said the idea has been well supported overall. Yeah, well. If people aren't comfortable paying it, or if men don't want to pay it, we're not going to kick them out the door, she said. It's just a good opportunity to do some good. Just a good opportunity to do some good. Well, you could also do the same good by asking everyone to donate a premium, not just based on one gender, to support some good causes. I contacted the Anti-Discrimination Commission about this back in 2017, and I was told unless you'd been refused service, it didn't actually matter. So they could do this. They were allowed to do it, and they got away with it. So let's have a look at some of the reviews of this cafe. Let's have a look. So this is from, you know, their Google reviews at 3 stars. And you can see here, you know, way overpriced and discriminates against men without having done proper research on the supposed pay gap. Yep, if they actually wanted to stop the pay gap, they would either hire male and female workers and pay them the same like all other, yeah. I support gender equality, and so does my female partner, who earns the same wage as I do for the same profession. We love eating at vegan restaurants, but we both believe double standards like this restaurant promotes are a backward step. Yes. Stay clear of this one. The food was okay, but not great. 1-star reviews due to the service. So, well, you're seeing that more and more. And here's one down at from another online like travel blog, you know, or travel review site. I was in Melbourne on business recently, and a friend of mine recommended this cafe. What a shame. I listened to her. It took 5 minutes to get the attention of the waitress, because you're a bloke, John, who seemed more interested in chatting to her friends rather than serving a customer who just walked through the door. I wonder if he realized if it was a feminist cafe. I was eventually seated and chose the gnocchi paired with a suggested point noir. The gnocchi arrived and I was bitterly disappointed. The gnocchi was very undercooked and had a floury texture. The mushrooms were burnt and the dish lacked any real flavor. The only enjoyable part of the meal was the wine. I left most of my meal on the plate and finished my wine. When I asked for the bill, the waitress asked if there was a problem with my meal since I left most of it on my plate. When I told her my dissatisfaction with the meal, she morphed into an aggressive and irate woman. No, I think she always was. And started dispatching some rather vile language. Not wanting to cause a scene, you should have. I subsequently left the requisite cash on the table, including a 15% tip. We don't need a tip in Australia. And promptly walked out. Why'd he tip? I don't think this is real. Can this be real? Guys, let me know. Well, I can't say I'm surprised at this behavior from the restaurant that believes in discriminating against people to raise money. But let me know if you think this is a real post or not. But you can see generally here that, out of 485 reviews, hitting 3 stars isn't very good. Isn't very good. And it's not just all people 1-starring it because of their discrimination. It's also about the food. I mean, it's vegan food. Let's have a look at their Twitter to kind of get a bit of a feel about them. And it looks like they haven't done anything here in a while, in a few years, since when they probably got a whole lot of online backlash because of their discriminatory policies. But we'll have a look here. This one's a beauty, summed it up. We realize over 50% of us are LGBTIQ, leading us to say it's a big hell yes over here. So this is for the gay marriage referendum we had in Australia, which has passed, and a Conservative government passed it actually, even though the lefties and everyone were worried about having a debate because, apparently gay people just are so weak, can't handle debate or discussion, which I think is utter BS. That you need to stop taking the agency away from your identity groups, lefties. You need to stop mollycoddling them because they're going to get pissed, frustrated, and leave your identity group. They'll leave the plantation. It'll happen. It will happen. Just wait. It already is. So, okay, I don't understand. Maybe 50% of their patrons are. So every Friday, okay, coffee with the team. Here we go. Here's a whole series of posts about keeping citizenship ceremonies but dumping Australia Day. So I assume if they're going to the effort of retweeting that, they're in support of this. So it adds to what their political ideology and their position and view on the world. So yeah, a bit more here, the same type of thing. There are more CEOs named David than there are female CEOs in Australia. Well, yeah, that's because being a CEO is an insane, horrible job. This is great. It's funny that they're posting this and complaining about it, yet 2 years later they've shut their own business down because they can't hack it. And they're moving on to better things. But that's real. That's reality. That's what you're saying. You're saying you can't hack it in the cafe business. You're quitting. Why there's now a shortage of lesbian vegan cafes in Melbourne because you've quit. There's not equality there. What are you doing? So, here we go. Another council. So they're against Australia Day. It's just a typical group of people that we can get an appreciation of. No surprises here. Let me know if any of you are surprised by anything we see here in their Twitter. And let's look at some of the events they ran. Because a big part of their cafe was to run events and to do outreach and that type of thing, which, I commend them for that. It's good turning just a simple cafe into something a bit more and getting a culture and a business surrounding it. I don't like the fact that you're discriminating, and frankly, I thought it was just a bit of a play to get some attention, but ideologically, I don't agree with that as a strategy. But let's have a look. In April, they had singled out at Handsome Her. I'm not sure what that is. Queer conversation, is marriage good? So they're talking about queer marriage. Well, we've got it now. Maybe they like the fact that they've got marriage, but they're against actually getting married. I would not be surprised. March 15th, over 35 lesbian speed dating. I can just imagine that. Oh boy, over 35s, lesbian speed dating. Wow. And the thing is, it's to do with anyone at that age. Anyone when you're like mid-30s, going on to 40s. When you meet someone in your early 20s, I was talking to Rachel about this yesterday. When you meet someone in your early 20s, you both grow up together. Because sure, you're an adult and you've started on your career and certain things in your early 20s, but you're not going to grow into the people that you are. You haven't grown into your skin yet. And if you get into a relationship at that age and you grow together, there's more chance of you fitting together and working together because you've gone through hard times. You've gone through struggles. The good and the bad. Whereas 35, regardless of your sexual orientation or your gender or anything, you're already in your skin. You've already got your habits. You're already like doing things your own way. And it's going to be even harder just to adapt to other people. I don't know. What do you guys think? But yeah, I can just imagine. So, one girl's International Women's Day, Girl Rising screening, a queer party at the Sydney Road Festival, Beaches, another film, January lesbian speed dating. So they've got, I guess they put it over 35 speed dating. And I don't know, how does it work in the lesbian communities? Do they want the younger women? Is it like the male communities, the homosexual communities? Or they're all homosexual, but the gay men communities, do they? Because my understanding is that they like the young guys too. Invasion Day at Handsomehurst. Well, there you go. Women only New Year's Eve. So convert a meat eater weekends. Big vegan atheist festival banquet. So we've got an understanding of how woke this organization is. This wasn't just a publicity stunt. This is core to their identity as a business and a brand. So what's happened? So they're having their last day on April the 28th. A handsome farewell. So I'm not interested or going to this, but I am interested in reading about it. So let's have a look. A few months ago, we found ourselves sitting under the southern sky ablaze with stars on land that had been owned by women for 40 years. We were invited there by women we met at Handsomehurst. Okay? These women lived wildly in times very different to now. Whilst we sipped our tea, we listened to stories from the 70s of underground meetups to create and distribute newsletters, to organize protests and change the world. We heard about women forming patrols and learning self-defense to protect themselves after they came out and were targeted with brutality. Stories of mass imprisonment, rounding up horses, leaving families and forming new ones, living on the move. We laughed and cried and felt held by this open and loving community as they shared their past with us. So I don't know why the fact that women owning the land for 40 years is that big a deal. There's been women who have been owning land for a very long time. I guess this is just a particular community that feels marginalized and probably was. If you just look at some of the laws that they had, back in the 70s, even in New York and that, they probably were actually marginalized legitimately, whereas now, no, not anymore. So the problem is that a lot of them are LARPing, I think. A lot of these people are LARPing, thinking they're in a great, valiant struggle against the patriarchy, and they need to create their own problems. It's why the bored housewife watches all the drama on the television. Will now be YouTube, but the soap operas. It's all the drama because it's missing from their lives. It's just a theory. So it's been a wild journey to say the least. When we opened Handsomehurst in 2017, we expected that perhaps we might make a stir through our brazen public discussions of structural inequality and oppression. I think you were born 40 years too late, really. I think you were really born 42 years too late. Your LARPing hasn't really made much of a discussion outside of your own echo chamber. The man tax blew up the internet, an idea that we didn't think was all too radical. Yet the way the world responded showed us how fragile masculinity is and solidified the necessity for us to confront and dismantle patriarchy. Well, I wouldn't say masculinity is fragile. I would say that we've been taught over the last 40 years to not discriminate against people based on their gender, like the people in your group were, and now you're doing the exact same thing that was done to these people who you think are heroes. That's why. That is why. But you won't see that because you believe in a patriarchy. And it's interesting when we see what destroyed their business or what drove them out. We were just one little tiny shop on Sydney Road that was trying to carve out a swathe of space to prioritise women and women's issues. And suddenly we became the punching bag of Melbourne and the internet. Yes, we are the evil, discriminatory, man-hating dykes who charge men more. When didn't you know that the wage gap didn't even exist? Well, yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. Ladies, come on, it doesn't exist. If you didn't give... Okay, Guarantee there's a wage gap between your business and another cafe across the road because they're not charging people more, discriminating against their clientele, and they're not pissing away their money on donations. Guaranteed. Meanwhile, gentlemen's social clubs live on and strong around Melbourne and around the world. Well, no, the Brisbane Club and the Tats Club have both admitted women. The Brisbane Club did it much longer ago, but the Tats Club recently has now allowed women into the club. So no, sorry, they don't exist. They're not strong and well. But at least in Brisbane, I don't know about Melbourne, but I guarantee you it'll be chipped away in Melbourne too. It will be chipped away. We try to demonstrate ways of doing business more ethically and responsibly by abandoning takeaway cups, single-use straws and napkins, and shopping locally and supporting women-owned businesses. Okay, good. That's fine. You've got every right to do that. But your business is closing down. Your business is closing down. See, most people when they enter business, and I've been there too, you've got quite an idealized view of things and how you're going to approach it. But you get hardened. You get hardened when if a client is 100 grand outstanding for a few months and you've got to meet those payments, meet this, meet that, you get hardened real quick, and you realize that staff member who you're giving these perks to and said, no, I can't help you meet this deadline. You're not gonna pay me for that extra hour. I'm gone. You realize these type of things hardens you a bit, and I've seen it. I've seen it with a lot of people that start up a business and a few years later, they all become hardened bastards. So let's see if these girls have been hardened. What do you reckon? We donate to charities and encourage community groups to use our space and our platform to elevate their voices. Well, see, that's the thing. You're donating to charities because you're virtue signaling. You're doing it in public. Traditionally, Christians donate to charity all the time, but you shouldn't do it in public. One hand shouldn't see what the other hand is giving. That's not what it's about. You need to get away from the virtue signaling side of things. But I know it's core to your identity, obviously. We've been proud to host an array of inspirational causes and events, such as Reclaim the Night, One Girl, V-Day, Invasion Day, Sea Shepherd, Waste-Free Living workshops, discussion nights, film screening, book launches, and the list goes on. I've got a funny story about Sea Shepherd. Rachel was at a breastfeeding group. So when she first, with her first child, she joined this group just to get support and advice and learn. And so she went there and also gives demonstrations as well. And I remember she was telling me, oh, they had this thing for Sea Shepherd. They were raising money for Sea Shepherd. And she goes, oh, I didn't know what it was. And I said, yeah, they're pirates. They're pirates. They all looked at her shocked because she didn't know what Sea Shepherd was and didn't want to support them. I thought it was funny, but it just tells you, there were a few women there with, let's say, coloured hair and armpit hair at the baby club breastfeeding group. But nonetheless, back to the article, or back to the Facebook post. When we learned that it wasn't only men's rights activists targeting us, yet people from within our own community. Here we go. People from within our own communities. We encouraged respectful and robust debate. As those of you who attended our Queer Conversations nights will know, we encouraged a range of diverse opinions from all intersections of society and insisted that people critique their inner fear of conflict with inquisitiveness and openness rather than hostility. We do not believe in the age-old practice of silencing women, as a way of stifling debate and avoiding conflict. For practical and principled reasons, we have not engaged in online nastiness or responded to parlons and have instead gone back to the old-school, real-life concept of human interaction to tackle big questions and create meaningful and long-lasting relationships. Now, as someone who is commenting online on YouTube, this is going to sound very hypocritical of me, but I think that's a fantastic idea on their part, because responding online to things can, particularly if it's an emotionally driven, someone's attacking you, so you just attack back, it can't be as productive. We believe in the words of Sarah Schumann that people need to speak, look, smell, touch, experience, vocal tone, facial expressions, make jokes, sit back, shift gears, evolve their ideas and feelings in front of each other in order to produce meaning. Well, yeah, it can go either way. It's two parts of a platform. I think you need to have considered response online, but a lot of what they were getting were just would just have been hate and trolls. It would have just been people dogpiling on them. So I can understand why they've stepped back, because it may not have been as productive. They probably should have. They probably should have filmed their discussions that they had in real life, and put those online as a response, going, here we go, we're addressing this, here you go. Maybe brought in some Twitter responses, but that takes a lot of effort. We embrace conflict and learning and leaning into the discomfort, and think the world would be a better place if people would stop apportioning blame to others and start taking responsibility for their own contributions. Okay, this is coming from a group that believes there's a patriarchy manipulating everything, and you're fighting it, and you don't take responsibility for the fact that there's wage or earnings differences, and you call it a wage gap. Am I the only one seeing that here? Am I the only one seeing that, guys? Maybe look in the mirror, perhaps. If only we approach difficult discussions with a commitment to seek to understand rather than just being understood. Well, that's very Jordan Peterson of you, right there. I wonder if you've read his book. We strive to bring lesbianism back into fashion. Why? Why? I mean, was it out of fashion? It's not a fashion thing, is it? Is it just a... Oh, well, there is now political lesbianism, where people choose to be lesbian simply as a form of feminist protest. But, you know, that's been around for a while. I don't think it's going to be so successful. I think that might die out. What you didn't know, it wasn't out of fashion. Well, no, I didn't. Thanks for asking. Well, for many of us, it is. It wasn't that long ago that it was illegal to even publish the word lesbian. Yeah, sure. How long ago is that? Probably longer than when you were born. Fun fact, it was only first published when the gay Mardi Gras became the gay and lesbian Mardi Gras. Does that mean it was illegal or wasn't appropriate? Now we have a resurgence or resentment for the term and identity, and lesbians are being erased from queer culture. Ah, so they're TERFs. They're TERFs. Are these women TERFs? Whereas gay male culture lives on strong and unscathed. Oh, that's the patriarchy benefit there. Go the boys. Go the boys. Oh, boy. Bloody hell. Just being in these identity cliques and the infighting. I'm getting exhausted just reading this. I can only imagine how difficult it would be to have this as part of your life and to tie it so closely to your business. I feel sorry for them, to be honest. I really do. I can just feel how draining it would be on your existence. We were taken aback to find that many people in the LGBTIQA+ community have as much aversion to us using the word lesbian as the men's rights activists who get a kick out of trolling our lesbian events. I don't have any aversion to you using the word lesbian. I've got aversion to you discriminating against people based on their gender, because you're hypocrites. That's what I've got aversion to. Lesbians are lovely and they deserve representation. I'm sure there are a lot of... I know lesbians that are nice people and deserve representation, but you can't claim to be the sole voice for lesbians because you have a coffee shop. That's not how life works. It doesn't give you moral authority over this identity group. Okay? This is like me claiming... Okay, I'm speaking on behalf of all bald white men now in the entire world. You know? We all drink coffee from Steins. I said it. I'm representing that identity group. Done. We'll probably know all bald men in Brisbane with orange shirts drinking coffee from Steins. That's who I'm talking for now. There's another one in Brisbane watching this video. Thumbs up. And we are proud to have created a space for women who love women to celebrate their culture once more. Oh boy. Now, as many of you know, Handsome Her has fallen mostly on the shoulders of Tessa and Alex, who plan the events, run the cafe, and spend every waking moment working on the business. Yeah, that's called being a small business owner, okay? That's called being a small business owner. All of these other people, these tag-alongs that come to your things, they're customers, and if they're not paying, I don't know what the hell they're there for. You should be charging them to use your facilities. However, we are off to our next adventure up north, where we'll be doing some hands-on work, something we've missed sorely while being at 206 Sydney Road, Brunswick. So they've given up on the project. They've given up on the project. I don't know if they've sold the space. Doesn't look like it. While it's a shame to lose the physical space, and we understand how essential it is for women and lesbians to hold space, oh boy, well, why don't you get some management in and get someone else to organize it? Or maybe the business isn't that profitable. Maybe it's going broke. We leave knowing that the communities we have made transcend the trendy vegan cafe on Sydney Road, Brunswick. We look forward to continuing Handsome Her in a variety of other more creative ways, expanding our efforts to drive change with flexibility and mobility throughout Australia. Come and join us for one last hurrah. So they're doing a last event. So this sounds like they've just had enough and they're abandoning it and going on a road trip. Maybe they're going in the caravan. Let's have a look at a bit more here. I went through the comments to try and find out what's going on, and it really does look like the transgender women are angry at this group because they're TERFs. So the trans exclusionary radical feminists. So that's what it appears from the comments that I'm picking up here and there. But I could be completely wrong, but I don't understand why they claim to think that lesbians are being marginalized in their identity group. I mean, how would I know? I'm not involved in that identity group. The only YouTubers I watch with regards to this are Blair White, and she's not exactly normal to this lot. So can I ask what you mean by targeting by those in your own community? Are you okay to talk about what happened? I wasn't aware this was happening, and it saddens me because as far as I can see, your space was a positive one for the community. Yeah, it was a positive one for the community, but it probably didn't make any money. So this is Handsome Her's response, and they're trying to get them to talk about it in their premises, which is their policy, but it will mean that they won't even share that discussion online, so it doesn't become part of the greater discourse. So here we go. So targeted by those in our own community is code for being called out for practicing trans exclusionary radical feminism and refusing to respond for requests for clarification. Being selective about who is fought for by your fake feminism is such hypocrisy. Well, they discriminate against men anyway. So only being willing to talk about it in person is because that way there are no receipts, no sympathy for you. No one is free until we're all free, trans women included. So there you go. And these comments the grayed out ones were hidden by Facebook. So they hid them so, I couldn't get my feels hurt. So it looks like, going through this, it's because they are trans exclusionary radical feminists, the TERFs, and that's why they shut down their business. So in some regards, I feel sorry for them because, they're biological realists. But in other, they're reaping what they're sowing. They've tied their business to this identity politics, and the left eats their own. The left always eats their own. So guys, they didn't got woke. They were born woke, and they built a business around being woke, and they lasted a couple of years. They had a whole series of events. They pissed off a lot of people, but now they're doing a runner. Guys, let me know what you think. You happy? You sad? Is this a good Easter present for you all? Let me know in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe, ding the bell to see my daily updates, and I'll see you all again later. Bye for now.